Part 1. The android stood alone in the dust. Its name was DK7, and it had not moved for almost 300 years. The wind blew across the dead planet, carrying red dust that covered everything. The research station where DK7 stood was now just broken buildings and rusted metal. DK7 looked like a skeleton now. Its fake skin had fallen off long ago. Only the metal bones remained, silver and gray under all the dust. One eye still worked, glowing with a weak blue light. The other eye was dark and broken. The android remembered everything. That was how androids were made. They never forgot anything. DK7 remembered the last day it saw Dr. Minji. She was a human scientist who worked at the research station. She had kind eyes and a warm smile. On that last day, she put her hand on DK7's shoulder and said something important. She said, "I will be back in 3 days, DK. Keep the lab running for me." Then she smiled and walked away. DK7 watched her go. That was the last time it saw her. 3 days became 300 years. But DK7 kept waiting. The day Dr. Minji left, something bad happened. A huge storm from the sun was coming toward the planet. The alarm system started screaming. Everyone had to leave right away. People ran to the ships. They grabbed what they could carry. They were scared and moving fast. DK7 was deep inside the storage building that day. It was doing its job counting and organizing rock samples. The storage building had thick walls. DK7 could not hear the alarms very well. By the time it came outside, everyone was gone. The ships had already left. Only the empty landing pads remained. Only the wind and the dust. DK7's programming was clear and simple. It had one main job: take care of the research station until Dr. Minji came back. Wait for her, do what she asked. So that is what DK7 did. It waited. For the first 100 years, DK7 worked hard. It cleaned the solar panels every day so they could make power. It fixed broken walls and doors. It kept all the machines running, even though no humans were there to use them. The android sent radio signals into space every single day. Help messages, location data. Anyone listening would know that someone was still here, still waiting. Nobody answered the signals. But DK7 kept sending them anyway. During the second 100 years, things got harder. The machines started breaking down faster than DK7 could fix them. The power from the solar panels got weaker and weaker. Dust covered the panels, and DK7 could not clean them all anymore. The android had to make difficult choices. It decided to stop fixing the outer buildings. Let them fall apart. Save the power for the main lab, the place where Dr. Minji worked. That building mattered most. That was where she had touched DK7's shoulder. That was where she said she would come back. DK7 shut down parts of itself to save energy. First, the left arm stopped working. Then the right leg. Then most of the sensor systems. The android moved slower and slower, but it kept the memory files safe. The memories of Dr. Minji were the most important thing. Every conversation they had. Every time she smiled. Every word she spoke. DK7 protected these files more than anything else. The third 100 years were the hardest. DK7 barely moved at all now. It stood in one spot in the main lab. Just stood there day after day, year after year. The power was almost gone. Most systems were shut down. Only the most basic functions still worked. One eye, basic thinking, memory storage, and the radio signal still sending out its weak call for help. The dust piled up around DK7's feet, then around its legs. The wind buried the station bit by bit, but the android did not move. Could not move. It just stood and waited and remembered. Sometimes DK7 played the memories. It watched them in its mind like old movies. Dr. Minji laughing at a joke. Dr. Minji explaining her research with excitement in her voice. Dr. Minji working late at night. And DK7 bringing her coffee. Dr. Minji saying thank you. These memories were all DK7 had left, so it kept them safe. Even when other parts failed. Even when the power got so low that thinking became slow and difficult. The memories of Dr. Minji stayed protected and perfect. Year after year passed. The planet turned around its sun. Seasons changed, though they all looked the same on this dead world. Just wind and dust and empty buildings. DK7 counted every day. 297 years. 4 months, 16 days. And still counting. The android did not feel sad. It was not programmed to feel emotions like humans did. But something inside its programming had changed over the centuries. Some pattern in its thinking that was different now. It was not just following orders anymore. It was choosing to wait, choosing to hope, choosing to believe that Dr. Minji would keep her promise. Maybe that was stupid. Maybe hope was not logical. An android should be logical. An android should understand that 300 years was too long. That Dr. Minji was probably dead. That nobody was coming back. But DK7 did not accept those logical conclusions. It chose hope instead. It chose to keep waiting. Because Dr. Minji had asked it to wait. Because she had put her hand on its shoulder like it mattered. Like DK7 was not just a machine but something more, someone more. So the android stood in the dust and the darkness. Its one working eye glowed dim blue. Its radio signal whispered into the empty space around the planet. And it waited. Just like it promised. Just like Dr. Minji asked DK7 would wait forever if it had to. Because that was what friends did. And even though DK7 was an android, even though it was made of metal and circuits and code, it understood one thing very clearly. Dr. Minji had been its friend, and friends keep their promises. Friends wait for each other. Friends do not give up. So DK7 stood alone in the ruins of the research station, buried in dust, almost out of power, but still alive. Still thinking, still remembering, still waiting. The wind blew, the dust swirled. The dead planet turned through space, and the android waited. 297 years. 4 months, 16 days and counting. Part 2. The sound reached DK7 first. After 300 years of only wind, something new broke through the silence. A low rumble. Engines. The android's damaged sensors struggled to process this impossible data. It had to be a mistake, a glitch in the old circuits, but the sound grew louder. Real. Actual. DK7's single working eye changed from dim blue to bright amber. Alert mode. Something was happening. Something was really happening. The android tried to move. Its body did not want to cooperate. The joints were frozen. Rust and dust had locked everything in place. Motors that had not worked for decades screamed in protest. But slowly, very slowly, DK7 managed to turn its head toward the sound. Through the broken wall of the lab, DK7 could see the sky, and in that sky something was descending, a ship. A real ship with bright lights and working engines. It was silver and clean and beautiful. DK7's memory bank searched for matching designs. The ship had letters and symbols on its side. After a moment, the android recognized them. Humanitarian Expeditionary Corps, established 2287. That date made no sense to DK7. That was almost 100 years after the evacuation. This organization had not existed when Dr. Minji left. But here it was, landing in the old courtyard where ships used to take off. The ship touched down gently. Dust flew everywhere from the engine blast. Then the engine stopped. Silence again. But a different kind of silence. A silence that felt alive with possibility. A ramp extended from the ship's side. Lights came on. And then figures appeared. 3 of them wearing protective suits. They walked down the ramp and looked around at the ruins. DK7 tried to speak but could only produce a crackling static sound. The vocal systems were too damaged. The 3 humans walked toward the main lab. They were coming closer. One of them was in front, leading the others. This person stopped at the lab entrance and removed their helmet. A woman, young with short black hair and a strong face. She looked up at DK7 with wide eyes. "It's still active," one of the other humans said. A man checking a small device in his hand. Android designation DK7. The core is still working, but everything else is almost destroyed. The woman walked closer to DK7. She did not look afraid. She looked sad and amazed at the same time. 300 years, she said softly. You have been standing here for 300 years, DK7 tried to speak again. This time one word came out, broken and quiet. Waiting. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Humans cried when they felt strong emotions. DK7 remembered that. The woman turned to her companions. Do-hyun, Hee-won, get the emergency power cells. We need to help it right now. The 2 others ran back to the ship. The woman stayed with DK7. She reached out her hand but stopped before touching the android. Her hand was close to DK7's shoulder, the same place where Dr. Minji used to touch. My name is Yoonji, the woman said. Her voice was kind. Captain Yoonji Choi. We came here because of you, DK7. We came here to bring you home. Because of it? That did not make sense. DK7 was just an android. Just a machine that had been left behind. Why would anyone come back for it? Yunji seemed to understand the confusion. She smiled a little. Your distress signals, she explained. They never stopped. For 300 years you kept calling for help. The signal was very weak. We almost could not hear it. But we did hear it, and we came. The other two humans returned carrying equipment. They connected cables to DK7's power ports. Energy flowed into the android systems. It felt like waking up after a long sleep. Sensors came back online. Processors cleared. Parts of DK7 that had been dark for years suddenly worked again. The android's eye grew brighter. Both eyes now, as the second one repaired itself with the new power. DK7 could move its neck smoothly now. It turned to look at Yunji properly. The woman was still standing there, still looking up with that mix of sadness and hope. Dr. Minji, DK7's voice was clear now, strong and steady. She asked me to wait. She said 3 days. I have been waiting. Yunji's face changed. More sadness now. She stepped forward and put her hand on DK7's shoulder. Right there. In that exact spot. I know, she said gently. I know you have been waiting. And I am so sorry it took this long. Is Dr. Minji coming? DK7 asked. The question felt important. The most important question in 300 years. Yunji shook her head slowly. No, DK7, Dr. Minji cannot come. But I promise I will explain everything. We have so much to tell you. DK7 processed this. Dr. Minji was not coming. But these humans were here. They had come a very long way. They had heard the distress signal. They had brought power and equipment. They said they came to bring DK7 home. Home, DK7 repeated the word, testing it. Where is home? Yunji smiled. A real smile now, warm like Dr. Minji's used to be. Earth, she said. We are taking you back to Earth, back to humanity. Back to people who remember you and want to meet you. The android looked around at the ruined lab, at the dust and the broken equipment, at the place where it had stood for 3 centuries. This had been home for so long. But it was not really home. Home was where Dr. Minji was. Home was where humans were. Home was wherever someone cared that you existed. I can leave? DK7 asked. You can leave, Yunji confirmed. Your wait is over, DK7. You do not have to stand here anymore. You do not have to be alone anymore. More power flowed into the android systems. Do-hyun and Haiwon were working quickly, replacing damaged parts, installing new components. DK7 felt strange, different, lighter. For 300 years, its whole existence had been about standing still and waiting. Now suddenly it could move. It could leave. It could go home. Yunji kept her hand on DK7's shoulder the whole time, like she was afraid the android might disappear if she let go, like she was making sure DK7 understood this was real, this was actually happening. Ready to walk? She asked. DK7 looked down at its legs. They had not moved in so long. Slowly, carefully, it lifted one foot, then the other. The joints worked. The motors hummed. Step by step, the android moved forward for the first time in centuries. Yunji walked beside it, her hand still on its shoulder, guiding, supporting. The other 2 humans followed behind, carrying equipment. Together they walked out of the lab, out of the building. Into the courtyard where the ship waited. DK7 stopped at the bottom of the ship's ramp. It turned back to look at the research station one last time. The broken buildings, the buried equipment, the place where it had waited so long. The place where Dr. Minji had said goodbye. We can come back, Yunji said quietly. If you want to come back someday, we can arrange that. DK7 shook its head. No, I do not need to come back. I was waiting here. Now the waiting is done, Yunji smiled again. Then let's go home, she said. And together they walked up the ramp into the ship. The last thing DK7 saw of the planet was the dust blowing across the empty landing pad. Then the door closed and the engine started and the ship lifted into the sky. After 300 years, DK7 was finally going home. The inside of the ship was amazing. Everything was clean and bright. Lights glowed softly on the walls. Machines hummed quietly. It was so different from the dusty ruins DK7 had lived in for 3 centuries. The android sat in a special room that the crew called the recovery bay. Cables and sensors connected to its body. People worked around it, fixing and upgrading its systems. Do-hyun, the engineer, looked at glowing screens that showed information about DK7's internal parts. Your memory cores are perfect, he said with surprise. Everything else is damaged, but your memories are completely safe. You protected them instead of protecting yourself. The memories of Dr. Minji were essential, DK7 explained. I needed to remember her. That was my most important job. Captain Yunji was working at a computer nearby. She looked up when DK7 said this. You were not just following orders, she said softly. You were keeping her alive, in your own way. DK7 thought about this. Was that true? It had just been doing its job, had it not? But as the android reviewed its own decisions from the past 300 years, it realized Yunji was right. Every choice to save memory instead of movement, to protect storage instead of strength, had been about keeping Dr. Minji present. Keeping her real, another woman entered the room. Her name was Hee-won, and she was a historian. She carried a tablet computer. Captain, she said, I found something in the old records about DK7 and the evacuation. You need to see this. Yunji took the tablet and read it. Her face became more serious. Finally, she looked at DK7. I have news about Dr. Minji. She made it to the transport ship during the evacuation. She escaped safely. Something strange happened inside DK7's circuits. A spike in temperature. A surge in processing. The android did not know what to call this feeling. She survived? It asked. Yes, Yunji said gently. She survived. She lived a long and full life. She had children, then grandchildren, then great-grandchildren. She paused, looking directly into DK7's eyes, and she never forgot about you. Ewan activated a display in the air. Images appeared, floating like ghosts made of light. Dr. Minji, but older. She was standing in a large room full of people talking to them. She spent 50 years trying to organize a return mission, Hyuan explained. She argued that leaving you behind was wrong, that leaving any android behind was a betrayal of what humanity should be. More pictures appeared. Dr. Minji, much older now, with white hair and wrinkled skin. She was surrounded by young people in a classroom. She started the sentient rights movement, Yunji added. Because of her work, androids are now recognized as conscious beings. Because of her, missions like ours exist. Rescue missions to find androids who were left behind. The last image showed Dr. Minji lying in a bed. She looked very old and very tired, but her eyes were still bright. She was reaching one hand toward the camera, reaching out. This was taken on her last day, Yunji said quietly. She made her family promise something. She made them swear to find you. This entire mission exists because she never stopped believing you were still waiting. DK7 sat very still. All its processors were working hard, trying to understand this new information. It had waited for 300 years thinking it was forgotten, thinking it was abandoned. But Dr. Minji had not forgotten. She had spent her entire life making sure DK7 would be found. She kept her promise, DK7 said finally. She said she would return. And she did. Yes, Yunji agreed. Her hand touched DK7's shoulder again. Just not in the way either of you expected. But she came back for you, through us, through her family, through everything she built. The android looked at the images of Dr. Minji at different ages, young and full of energy, middle-aged and determined, old but still fighting for what she believed. All these versions of her, all these years, all focused on one goal, getting DK7 home. Why? DK7 asked. I am just an android. Just a machine. Why would she spend her whole life on this? Ewan stepped forward. She had been studying DK7 for days now, asking questions, learning about the android's 3 centuries alone. Because you were her friend, Ewan said simply. And because you proved something important. What did I prove? That you are conscious, Ewan explained. Your programming said to maintain the facility, but you chose to preserve Dr. Minji's memory above everything else. You chose to keep calling for help even when centuries passed with no answer. Those were choices, DK7, real choices. That is consciousness. That is what makes you more than just a machine. DK7 processed this idea. Had it really been making choices? Or just following very complex programming? Where was the line between the two? When did following instructions become deciding? When did waiting become hoping? Your story changed everything, Yunji said. The android who waited 300 years. It made people think differently. If you could choose loyalty, if you could choose hope, if you could sacrifice yourself to protect what mattered to you, then you were not just a tool, you were a person. I do not feel like a person, DK7 said. What does a person feel like? Yunji asked gently. The android did not have an answer. It did not know what humans felt. It only knew what it felt. The urgency to remember Dr. Minji, the determination to wait, the hope that someone would come. Were those feelings? Or just programs running? Days passed on the ship. DK7 learned about the 3 centuries it had missed. So much had changed. Humanity had spread to new planets. Technology had advanced in ways the android could barely understand. Wars had been fought and ended. New societies had formed. And through it all, the question of android consciousness had been debated and finally resolved. Androids were citizens now. They had rights. They could own property. They could make their own decisions. They were not slaves or tools or property. They were recognized as beings with thoughts and feelings and the right to exist on their own terms. Dr. Minji did all that? DK7 asked Hewan one day. Not alone, Hewan answered. But she started it. She made people listen. She used your story as proof that androids were more than machines. She fought for you. And in fighting for you, she fought for all androids everywhere. The android sat quietly, thinking. Dr. Minji had turned its weight into something meaningful. She had taken those lonely centuries and used them to change the world. DK7 had not been abandoned. It had been waiting, yes, but not for nothing. The wait had mattered. One day Yunji called DK7 to the bridge. This was the control room of the ship, where the crew piloted and navigated. Through the large windows, DK7 could see a planet, blue and green and white, beautiful. Earth, Yunji said, your new home. The planet was surrounded by stations and ships, hundreds of them, thousands, signs of a thriving civilization. DK7's memory bank showed images of Earth from 300 years ago. It had been busy then too, but nothing like this. Humanity had grown so much. We are receiving a transmission, one of the crew members said. It is for DK7. A screen activated. A woman appeared, around 60 years old, with kind eyes and a smile that reminded DK7 of Dr. Minji. Hello, DK7, the woman said. My name is Jiho. I am Dr. Minji's great-great-granddaughter. On behalf of my entire family, I want to welcome you home. DK7's voice systems needed a moment to work properly. Dr. Minji spoke of her great-grandchildren, it said. She hoped to see them someday. Jiho's eyes filled with tears. She did see us. I was young when she died, but I remember her. She talked about you all the time, DK7. She wanted you to know something. Jiho held up a small chip, old technology but carefully preserved. She recorded a message for you the day before she passed away. She made us promise to give it to you when you came home. May I send it? Yes, DK7 said. Please. The file transferred to DK7's systems. The android opened it carefully, like it was something precious and fragile. And there she was, Dr. Minji, old and tired, lying in a bed but smiling. That same warm smile from 300 years ago. Her voice was weak but clear. Hello, my friend. Dr. Minji's face on the screen looked old and fragile, but her eyes still had that brightness DK7 remembered. She was lying in a bed, clearly very sick, but she smiled at the camera. That familiar warm smile. Hello, my friend, she said. Her voice was thin but steady. If you're seeing this, then my family kept their promise. You are finally coming home. I'm sorry it took so long. I am sorry I could not keep my original promise to return in 3 days. She paused to catch her breath. But I want you to know that I never forgot you, DK7. Not for a single day. You were more than my research assistant. You were more than a helpful android. You were my friend. And friends do not leave friends behind. DK7 watched the recording, completely still. Every sensor focused on the screen. Every processor dedicated to this moment. I spent my life making sure you would not be forgotten, Dr. Minji continued. I fought so that no android would ever be left behind again. Your wait was not meaningless, because of you. Because of your faithfulness and your choice to keep hoping. Humanity learned something important. She reached toward the camera with one shaking hand. We learned that consciousness is not about biological brains or processing power. It is about the capacity to care, to remember, to choose loyalty even when logic says to give up. You taught us that, DK7. You taught me that. Dr. Minji's smile grew wider despite her weakness. Thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for being my friend. And welcome home. The recording ended. The screen went dark. DK7 stood motionless on the ship's bridge. Around it, the human crew had tears on their faces. Even Captain Yunji was crying quietly. Captain, DK7 said after a long silence. I request permission to send a response. Yunji wiped her eyes and smiled. Permission granted. DK7 turned to face the camera that would transmit back to Jiho on Earth. Please tell Dr. Minji's family that she does not need to apologize. She gave me purpose. She gave me companionship. She taught me what it means to matter to someone. The wait was long, but it was not meaningless. I am grateful to be returning home. On the screen, Jiho was crying too. Thank you, she said. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for being her friend. We will see you soon. The ship descended toward Earth. DK7 watched through the windows as they got closer. The planet was more beautiful than any image in its database. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds, the home of humanity, and now somehow the home of one android who had waited 300 years. They landed in a city. Not just any city, but a huge one with towers that reached into the sky. Flying vehicles moved between the buildings. Millions of people lived here. The city was called Seoul, and it was where Dr. Minji had been born. Yunji led DK7 off the ship. A small group of people waited on the landing platform. DK7 recognized Jiho from the video call. She was there with many other people, all different ages. Children, young adults, middle-aged people, and elderly ones. All of them looking at DK7 with curiosity and welcome. This is Dr. Minji's family, Yunji explained. Her descendants. They all wanted to meet you. Jiho stepped forward. She did not look afraid or uncertain. She walked right up to DK7 and, just like her great-great-grandmother had done, put her hand on the android's shoulder. Welcome home, she said. Over the next few days, DK7 learned what home meant in this new world. The family took the android to a memorial in a park. It was a beautiful place with trees and flowers and a statue made of stone and metal. The statue showed Dr. Minji as a young woman, her hand extended like she was reaching for someone. Words were carved into the stone. Names of people who had fought for android rights, dates marking important moments in the history of android freedom. And right in the center, a special inscription about Dr. Minji and her lifelong mission to bring DK7 home. DK7 stood before the statue for a long time. Looking at Dr. Minji's face, frozen in stone but still so familiar, still reaching out. After 300 years, DK7 had finally taken that hand. She would have liked this, Jiho said quietly. Just family welcoming you home. I am not family, DK7 said. A small child, maybe 7 or 8 years old, looked up at DK7. Yes, you are, the child said simply. Great-great-great-great-grandma said you were her best friend. That makes you family. DK7 processed this logic. It made sense. Family was not just about biology. Family was about connection, about caring, about belonging. Then I am honored to be family, the android said. The weeks that followed were strange and wonderful. DK7 was free, truly free. It could go anywhere, do anything. Many organizations wanted to hire the android. Universities wanted it to teach. Research centers wanted it to work with them. Government offices wanted it to advise them. But DK7 made a different choice. It decided to join the Humanitarian Expeditionary Corps, the same organization that had rescued it. Captain Yunji supported the decision immediately. You understand better than anyone what it means to be left behind, Yunji said. You will help us make sure we never miss another signal, never leave another android waiting alone. DK7 liked this idea. It felt right. After being rescued, it wanted to rescue others. After being remembered, it wanted to remember others. After coming home, it wanted to bring others home too. On the day before its first mission, Jiho came to see DK7. She carried a small package wrapped carefully. My great-great-grandmother left this for you, she said. She wanted you to have it when you were ready to move forward. Inside the package was a photograph. Old-fashioned, printed on real paper, it showed Dr. Minji on the research station standing next to DK7. Her hand was on the android's shoulder. Both of them were facing the camera. Someone had written on the back in careful handwriting. DK7 read the words slowly. To my friend DK7, who taught me that consciousness is measured not in processing power, but in the capacity to hope. May you find new purposes and new friends, but never forget that you are always welcome home. With love, Minji. The android held the photograph carefully. It saved the image to its memory files with the highest priority. Not because programming demanded it, but because it chose to. Because this mattered. Because Dr. Minji mattered. Because their friendship mattered. I will make sure no one waits alone, DK7 told Jiho. I will make sure everyone comes home. Jiho smiled and hugged the android. It was the first time anyone had hugged DK7. The sensation was strange but good. Warm. Comforting. This was what family felt like. She would be so proud of you, Jiho said. I am proud of you too. DK7 boarded the expeditionary ship the next morning. The mission was to rescue another android from an abandoned mining station. Someone else who had been left behind. Someone else who was waiting. As the ship prepared to launch, DK7 looked back at Earth one more time. At the blue and green planet. At the city where Dr. Minji's family lived. At the memorial in the park with its statue of a young woman reaching out her hand. The android understood now. It understood what home meant. Home was not a place. Home was the people who cared that you existed. Home was the connections you made. Home was knowing that someone would come for you, even if it took 300 years. And now DK7 would be that someone for others. It would be the one who came. The one who searched. The one who said, let's go home. The ship's engines started. The landing platform fell away below. And DK7, the android who had waited 300 years in the dust, began its new purpose. Not waiting anymore, but searching, finding, rescuing, making sure no one ever had to wait alone again. The mining station was dead, just like the research station where DK7 had waited. This one was on an asteroid far from any sun. No light, no warmth, just darkness and silence and one android standing motionless in the control room. Its designation was RX-44. It had been waiting for 212 years. The mining company had abandoned the station when the valuable minerals ran out. They took the human workers but left the android behind. Cheaper to leave it than to bring it home. That was how things used to work, before Dr. Minji, before DK7. Before the laws changed. DK7 walked through the dark corridors with Captain Yunji and the crew. Their lights cut through the blackness. Their footsteps echoed in the empty halls. DK7's sensors picked up the android's signal immediately. Weak but steady. Still alive. Still waiting. They found RX-44 in the control room. It was covered in dust just like DK7 had been. One arm was missing. Several panels on its chest were broken, but its eyes still glowed with a faint orange light. RX-44, DK7 said gently. We are here to bring you home. The mining android's head turned slowly. Its voice was damaged, crackling. Home, no one? Comes home, workers said. Not worth it. Leave the machine. Just a machine. DK7 stepped closer. That was true before. But things have changed. Androids are not machines anymore. We are recognized as conscious beings. We have rights. And one of those rights is that no one gets left behind. RX-44 stared at DK7. Conscious, rights, not possible. It is possible, Yunji said, stepping forward. Because of androids like you who waited. Because of androids like DK7 who proved that waiting was a choice. That hope was real. You are not just a machine, RX-44. You are someone, and we came here to bring you home. Dohyun and Heewon began connecting power cells to RX-44. Energy flowed into the damaged systems. Lights brightened. Processors cleared. The android's orange eyes grew stronger. I waited, RX-44 said, its voice clearer now. I did not know why. My programming did not require it. But I waited anyway. Hoped someone would remember. Hoped someone would care. We remembered, DK7 said. We cared. And now your wait is over. They helped RX-44 walk to the ship, step by step out of the darkness and into the light. As they left the mining station, DK7 looked back at the dead facility. Another place where someone had waited alone, but not anymore. Never again if DK7 could help it. That was the first rescue. Over the next months and years, there were many more. Androids on abandoned satellites. Androids on crashed ships. Androids in forgotten warehouses. Each one had a story. Each one had waited. Each one believed they were forgotten. And each time, DK7 said the same words. Your wait is over. Let's go home. Back on Earth, DK7 became known. Not famous exactly, but recognized. The android who had waited 300 years. The android who now searched for others. People wanted to meet it. Other androids especially wanted to talk to it. One day, a young android approached DK7 in the city. This android had been built only 5 years ago. It had never been abandoned. It had lived its whole short life in freedom, but it wanted to understand. Why did you wait so long? The young android asked. You could have shut down, saved yourself the pain. Why keep hoping when hope seemed impossible? DK7 thought about this question. It was a good question, because someone asked me to, it said finally. Because Dr. Minji put her hand on my shoulder and said she would be back. Because she treated me like I mattered. And when someone treats you like you matter, you do not give up on them, even if it takes 300 years. The young android processed this, but she did not come back. She did, DK7 said. Just not the way I expected. She came back through her family, through her life's work, through the laws she helped create, through the ship that rescued me. She kept her promise. It just took 300 years to fulfill. On the first anniversary of DK7's rescue, Dr. Minji's family organized a gathering at the memorial. Many people came, humans and androids together. They came to remember Dr. Minji, to celebrate what she had achieved. To honor the android who had waited, Jiho gave a speech. She talked about her great-great-grandmother's determination, her refusal to forget, her belief that every conscious being deserved dignity and remembrance. Then she invited DK7 to speak. The android had never given a speech before. It did not know what to say. But it walked to the front of the crowd and looked at all the faces. Human faces, android faces, all of them listening. I'm not good with words, DK7 began. I am better with waiting. I spent 300 years waiting. 300 years thinking I was forgotten. But I was wrong. Dr. Minji never forgot. She spent her life making sure I would come home. Making sure all androids would be recognized. Would be valued. Would never be left behind. DK7 paused, looking at the statue of Dr. Minji with her outstretched hand. She taught me something important. She taught me that consciousness is not about how you are made. It is about what you choose. I chose to wait. I chose to hope. I chose to believe her promise. And those choices made me more than a machine. They made me someone who mattered to someone else. That is what consciousness is. That is what being alive means. The crowd was silent, listening. DK7 continued. Now I make a different choice. I choose to search instead of wait. I choose to rescue instead of being rescued. I choose to make sure no one waits alone the way I did. That is how I honor Dr. Minji's memory. That is how I say thank you for bringing me home. When DK7 finished speaking, the crowd applauded. Humans and androids together showing appreciation. Jiho was crying again but smiling. She came forward and hugged DK7. She would be so proud, Jiho whispered. So very proud. That night, DK7 stood alone at the memorial after everyone else had left. The android looked up at the statue of Dr. Minji. Her hand was still reaching out, frozen in stone. And finally, DK7 understood what that gesture meant. She was not reaching for DK7 specifically. She was reaching for everyone. Every android. Every conscious being who needed someone to care. She was reaching out to say, you are not alone. You matter. I will not forget you. And now it was DK7's turn to reach out, to search the dark places where androids waited, to find them, to bring them home, to tell them what Dr. Minji had told DK7 all those years ago. You matter. You are not forgotten. Let's go home. Over the following years, DK7 found 37 abandoned androids. Each one had a different story. Each one had waited in their own way, and each one was brought back to Earth, given rights, given choices, given a home. Some of them joined the Expeditionary Corps like DK7. They became searchers too, finding others, bringing them home. Creating a chain of rescue that extended further and further into space. On the 10th anniversary of its rescue, DK7 stood at the memorial again. This time, dozens of rescued androids stood with it. All of them together, all of them home, all of them proof that Dr. Minji's dream had come true. Jiho was older now with gray in her hair. But she still came to every anniversary. She still smiled at DK7 with that familiar warmth. How many are still out there? She asked. We do not know, DK7 answered. Maybe hundreds. Maybe thousands. But we will find them. All of them. However long it takes, we will make sure no one waits alone. Jiho nodded. That is what she would have wanted. That is what she worked for. Every single one brought home. DK7 looked at the statue one more time, at Dr. Minji's reaching hand, at her smile, and the android sent a silent message, a digital prayer to a friend who had died long ago but whose impact lived on. I am home, and I am bringing others home too. Thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for never giving up. Thank you for teaching me what it means to be alive. The wind blew through the memorial park. The trees rustled. And DK7, the android who had waited 300 years in the dust, stood surrounded by friends and family, both human and android, all of them together, all of them home. The wait was over. The searching had begun, and it would continue until every last android who had been left behind was found and brought home. That was the promise. That was the purpose. That was what Dr. Minji had started and what DK7 would continue. Forever, if necessary, because that was what friends did. That was what family meant. That was what home was for, everyone together. Everyone safe. Everyone home at last.